You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming, and something out Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of No More Future. Alright, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alright. Mr. Aljon. Which one's Mr. Aljon? Him right there, okay. I see. Does anyone else know about this within the company? Not at all. The only ones aware of what transpired to me, Jasper and Isaac, of course. Now, that's a big fat lie if you've ever heard one. What is Mary even thinking, lying to that to her superiors? Good thing that you didn't tell Jasper about Natalie's involvement yesterday. Had you done so, he would have certainly claimed both your heads by now. What about that other kid and those thugs Jasper mentioned earlier? The youth fled as soon as Isaac arrived on the scene, whereas the hoodlums that attacked him, well, I don't think I need to explain why we'll never hear from them again. There's no way they'd be able to implicate Isaac or Pandora without landing themselves behind bars as well. It's safe to say that this issue has taken care of itself. Yet more lies coming from the feline sweet-talking mouth, and all of them could easily be disproven if anyone here asked to watch the footage she's so confidently referring to. You pray to whatever god is out there that you'll somehow manage to get out of here without a second of that video shown to the other owners. At the very least, your combined deception has managed to keep all your friends out of harm's way for the time being. If you weren't utterly terrified right now, you could almost feel proud of yourself. So, Dr. Shelley boldly admits that this thing she made ruthlessly assaulted those men the other day, and we're still debating the merits of keeping either of them around. The enraged cat swiftly turns to face her superior, an outraged look in her eyes. You're misrepresenting the facts, Jasper. You're acting as though Isaac deliberately sought a fight, when that was anything but the case. Those idiots swung first, and all Isaac did was react accordingly. They were the ones who escalated the confrontation. What else was he supposed to do, given the situation? Not be in it, for starters. I'm sure your android had every opportunity to flee, even after being attacked. But instead, he chose to stay, fully aware of the consequences of his actions. That's what Daphne told you the other day, that he had no reason to get involved, or rather that you had every reason not to. And yet you fought those people off nonetheless, in spite of all the trouble it would conjure, just because you thought it was the right thing to do. You're not sure how much that justification will hold up in this meeting room, but Mary appears determined to get that point across as much as she can. And leave that kid to be harassed and possibly hurt or killed? What sort of heartless monster would do that? Isaac acted selflessly in defense of that young boy, in spite of the consequences. If that doesn't prove that, what it proves is that he is as reckless and deranged as you are, Dr. Shelley. The Drake shuts the feline up with a deafening roar. You forget your place. You think that this is some sort of children's cartoon and that your android over there is some righteous superhero that is exempt from the consequences of their actions. But we are a company. The most important one on the planet, for that matter. And if someone else were to find out the truth about what happened, the consequences would be catastrophic for us all. Especially considering that you explicitly planned ahead for something like that fight to occur, and outfitted your synthetic accordingly. Mary's jaw swings open at the sound of Jasper's accusation, and even the owners themselves don't seem to know how to react to his startling words. Excuse me? Again, Jasper turns to face you. You. Show them. It takes you a little while to understand what he's talking about, and when you do, your uncertainty reaches heights you never experienced before. Is he really asking me to show them that thing? How does he even know about it? I never even mentioned it to him. More importantly, should I do it? If I do, then most certainly. Before you can even feel the Drake's impatient gaze piercing right through your steel-clad skin, you can feel Mary's gentle hand resting on your shoulder. It's okay. Go ahead. So she says, but is it truly fine to show them, knowing what will follow? Nonetheless, it doesn't appear as though you have a choice in the matter. All you can do is hope for the best as you think your tail open and unveil to the horrified rabbit and pangolin what hides within. Is that a fucking taser? And you brought that thing here, where it could kill us all in the heartbeat if it wished? They look utterly terrified, just as you were afraid they would be, just like Jasper was hoping they would be. At last you were seeing my point exactly. This woman deliberately sicked her untrained mutt onto the world and equipped it with illegal weaponry that'll get us all imprisoned. Now you understand how our customers out there feel, knowing that this creature is free to roam the streets unsupervised every single day. How they'll feel if this technology is ever allowed to be released to the public. His baleful gaze meets Mary's once again, devious thoughts likely swarming his mind as he speaks. But I'm sure you don't mind, do you, Shelley? You know perfectly well what you were doing when you bestowed that taser onto that android. It's as though you expected... No, it's as though you were looking for something like this to happen. Oh, please. You're looking too deep into my actions. All I did was make sure Isaac would be ready should the worst come to pass. It's truly nowhere near as bad as you think it is. Nowhere near? Are you out of your mind? You're putting the lives of innocent people in danger, all for the sake of testing and experimenting, exposing them to this abomination of science for your sick pleasure. Abomination of science? Surely you jest. He's a person who was forced against his will to partake in a situation none of us wished. He's a menace to society, Shelley. Armed to the teeth with illegal weaponry, with a near invulnerable body that can kill people just by looking at them wrong. You're clearly exaggerating. No, you're the one who isn't taking this nearly as seriously as she should. Seriously, as she should. You're so lost in the nonsense you're spouting, you don't even see the threat you're unleashing on this company. No, on the whole world. I won't sit idly by while you let this android tear down everything we've built, all for the sake of some make-believe immortality. He turns to face the owners once again, an angered but deeply focused look on his face. Surely you agree with me. But no one answers. You take a long look at the rabbit and the pangolin. They seem uncertain of how best to react to everything that just happened. Not like you can blame them. You're completely floored yourself. It's like, water time. Alright, guys and gals, and we are back. Let's jump back into it, shall we? Okay. All that you can do, much like them, is send anxious looks in the direction of the ever-serious Eagle, who appears to be the only one left in the room with anything left to say. Dr. Shelley, I don't recall any mentions of taser tails and similar gadgetry in your pitch for the synthetic project so many decades ago. Care to explain these recent deviations in your designs? Amidst the shocked looks of both you and the dragon, Mary gracefully steps forward, a proud and confident smile on her face. I assume I don't need to explain our need to preserve our current synthetics, given the wealth of knowledge and data we can acquire from them. The non-lethal weaponry we installed in Isaac was meant to protect him should he become involved in a dangerous situation, that's all. Considering that neither the FBI nor the police had provided suitable alternatives, I took it upon myself to provide Isaac with alternative, and most importantly, discreet methods of protection. You half expect her to try and defend herself further, to elucidate all the reasons... elucidate all the reasons why the truth isn't anywhere near as bad as it is, obviously is. But she doesn't. And clearly she doesn't have to. So this could be considered a means of protecting the merchandise. It's an unconventional solution, but given the circumstances... The two people at the Eagle's side buy into her excuses without a shred of hesitation, as though she just explained in rigorous detail why 2 + 2 = 4. As for Jasper's grandfather, he merely limits himself to a curt nod and a pensive grunt, much to the ires of his grandson. Please tell me you're not buying this! The avian shoots an angry look at his younger relative, quietly letting him know that the time to build his case is over. He then focuses his gaze once more onto the cocky-looking lady before him. Dr. Shelley, I need to remind you that these non-lethal solutions must not make it into the final product. I can see why you'd feel the need to implement them at this stage, but what Jasper said is right. They are a step too far. The feline shudders a little at the Eagle's implicit request, but she respectfully bows as she acknowledges it. They absolutely won't, Mr. Morgan. They're nothing more than a temporary solution to guarantee the protection of our research materials, so to say. I will directly foresee to the removal of that taser from Isaac's tail. It will not bother us again. Good. Then I'd call this matter settled if there's nothing left to add. Settled? Now more than ever, the viridescent Drake looks on the verge of snapping someone's neck. You're truly going to let her continue her work with nothing more than a slap on the wrist? That is correct. You're right, of course, about the danger it would pose our company if the public became aware of that synthetic's actions. But as long as we can keep this accident wrapped up, we needn't worry about distractions like those. As such, I ask that all copies of the footage relating to the event be destroyed immediately. No one must find out the truth of what transpired. You didn't say twice, Mr. Morgan. I will take care of that myself and ensure that no traces remain. You honestly cannot believe what you've heard just now. He's actually asking Mary to destroy the only piece of evidence that could prove just how full of shit she really is. The look on Jasper's face is so priceless it could belong in an art gallery. Perhaps he's cursing himself under his breath for not asking the footage be reviewed before it was too late. All he can do, it seems, is helplessly watch as his grandfather ends all hope of things going his way before his eyes. Now then, if that is all. The Eagle makes as if to stand up and conclude the meeting right there and then, but Jasper resolutely steps forward to prevent that. You're joking, right? After everything that woman and her synthetic pet have done, you can't possibly let them... Enough! The Elder Eagle's voice echoes in the room like thunder in a storm. It's enough to quiet everyone down in an instant and turn them into a shriveling infant, even the two people sitting by his side. We've entertained this endless discussion for long enough. I believe it is time we resolve this quarrel once and for all. Mr. Morgan turns to face his grandson, who doesn't seem to bat an eye even under the weight of his ice-cold stare. A normal person would be quaking in their boots under such pressure, but the entire extent of his reaction is a few twitches in his fingers. You've made your points ample clear, Jasper. Your dedication to this company is admirable, and I wholeheartedly respect your viewpoints on the matter. But it is not your place to argue which projects we should finance and which ones we should not. That decision lies with us, and us alone. The Drake makes it as if to retort, but he ultimately sends all the words he wishes to share down his gullet. You imagine that interrupting the Eagle in the midst of one of his arguments is a mistake you can only make once. Our decision to finance the synthetic project was made long ago for a reason, and that's final. We will no longer discuss the merits or not of this project, regardless of your feelings on it. Your worries over the funds we've sunk into this technology are noted, but if Dr. Shelley deems them necessary to ensure the success of this initiative, then that's a sacrifice we are willing to endure. He had more suppressed grumblings from the Drake, especially now that the Eagle's words are beginning to rouse a smile from the feline. Is Mary truly going to win this debate so easily after everything Jasper revealed? Judging from the Eagle's tone, that may well be the case. We understand your apprehensions over Dr. Shelley's questionable work ethic, but she has proven over the last 4 decades to be an invaluable asset to this company that simply cannot be replaced. Her methods may be unconventional, but they have been proven to work time and time again. So long as she can fulfill her obligations and deliver what we've agreed with her, how she goes about achieving this goal is irrelevant. Especially to you. You see the reptile's fist tightening and shaking behind his back, and for a second you fear that Jasper may just do something extremely stupid. But just like always, he somehow manages to exhale his frustrations out of his nostrils right before he can unleash them. Most of them, at least. Understood, sir. I will not question your judgment again. Good. I appreciate your consideration and understanding. Keep to your duties, and I assure that your dedication to this company will be greatly rewarded. Now that's a vague promise if you've ever heard one, and it's clearly not enough to please the fuming Drake in the slightest. But he has no further room to argue, and so all he can do is bow politely and pretend as though he's satisfied with his grandfather's words. Of course, Mary couldn't be more overjoyed to hear that. Though she's doing her best to stay calm and composed, you can practically already hear her gloating under her breath. She's gonna have a field day poking fun at Jasper once all said and done. But just before any of you can call it a day and head back from whence you came, Mr. Morgan speaks once again. Having said that, I do agree with one of your points. The Drake is just as stunned to hear that as you or Mary are. You do? Indeed. The Eagle suddenly turns to face the feline once again, who appears thoroughly startled by this sudden development, as though she didn't expect Mr. Morgan to have anything left to say by now. We are behind on our schedule. It's been almost a year since our first synthetic prototypes were completed, yet you're still nowhere near ready for public distribution. We've had hundreds of establishments all over the globe ready to process tens of thousands of synthetics per day, yet none of them have officially opened their doors. Care to elaborate on that, Dr. Shelley? You can see some of Mary's color draining from her face as both you and her begin to fear the implications of Mr. Morgan's query. We have adapted our timetable to allow for more extensive testing of our synthetics' conscience and humanity, as you're all aware. Unless we can reliably prove the usefulness and effectiveness of this technology, all efforts to develop it will have been for... You are misunderstanding my point. Eagle interrupts the feline in the midst of her explanation. She hesitantly obliges. You've never seen her react so submissively before, even while being railed by Jasper the other day. It's definitely not a comforting sight. Like we already established, you're taking far too long to develop this technology. Our funds may be unlimited, but our patience is not. We will need to set a more stringent deadline to ensure that you deliver the results we seek. The Eagle's choice of words, though highly confusing, is more than enough to send chills down your synthetic spine. Even Mary's more than taken aback by what she's heard. Excuse me, a deadline? Indeed, you held an interview with the New Herald the other day, didn't you? What was it that you said at that time in regards to how long people should wait for this technology to be available? The scientist hesitates to answer, fumbling around in a vain attempt at prolonging the inevitable. Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank y'all for all you do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silverman. Thank you for going a bit above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you to our gold tier patron, Tresem Guy. You're awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits or get access to all of our not safe for work contents as little as $5 already, I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!